The Farmers Insurance Open edition of the Golf Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Kalshi. Make real money predicting sports. Kalshi is available in all 50 states, and you get $20 for free with promo code SGPN. That's Kalshi, promo code SGPN. Welcome back to another week. Got a solo show. Matt is not able to. If you see his connection on the DFS show, he figured it would be better just to opt out of this one and let us go solo. So we are here. Third event of the year, already at the Farmers Insurance Open. Time is going to start flying as the golf season always does. Not a whole lot to recap on Amex. I took on Scotty Scheffler, had a lot of each ways, didn't really hit. I posted a late Austin Smotherman top 40. I got boosted just over 5-1. So luckily that made me profit a little bit last week, considering a lot of the first clicks that I had, guys where I thought there were pretty good numbers just kind of flopped. I mean, Ryan Gerard is a guy who I think is eventually gonna, I don't know. I don't even know if he's gonna stop. Like, he could win this week, but it's just like he wasn't a guy that was really on my radar last week and ends up finishing second for the third straight event dating back to his DP World Tour event last year when he snuck inside the top 50 in the world. Speaking of the top 50 in the world, my guy Jaden Shaper, remember the name, DP World Tour player. I think he's 24 years old. He beat Ryan Gerard in a playoff about a month ago. He is officially inside the top 50 in the world. Would love to see him work his way into a major or two here. I think that's going to continue. It looks like he's a grinder. He's going to continue to play. Pretty much has his PGA Tour card locked up for 2027. But if he sticks inside the top 50 in the world, I think Jaden Shaper could be a guy who we see kind of often, actually. He might get a couple sponsor invites. So name to watch. Just thought I would throw that out there. But, yeah, like I said, not a whole lot to recap on Amex. It wasn't really a sweat. I watched it back and forth. I had split screen with that and the games on Championship Sunday. So was back and forth a little bit, but it got to a point where no one was really catching Scotty Scheffler. Like I said, Ryan Gerard did get hot, but he was running out of holes. Andrew Putnam was right there. Sure, Matt McCarty. That was my top 40 last week. Me and Matt both hit our top 40s. He had Max Homa. So we'll take that 2 for 2 on the top 40s. I have his for the end of the show that I will bring up. But yeah, let's get to Torrey Pines and the Farmers Insurance Open. Before we do that, I just wanted to mention to get easy access to all of our picks and podcasts in one convenient app. Download the SGPN app, available for free in your app store. Go to the app store, get the SGPN app. Everything is there in one spot for you. So back to the Farmers Insurance Open. So Torrey Pines, obviously something that we've done quite a bit. Always plays as one of the more difficult courses, even with one of the 4 rounds being at the North Course, which is considerably easier than the South. I don't think there's much of a difference where you start. I guess history kind of says you want to start at the North in the first round and then play your last 3 at the South Course and kind of get into a rhythm. I wouldn't look into it too deep. I always say, like, if you want to kind of like doing waves with weather, like if you want to have something break a tie, go with the guy who's starting on the North Course, get to a hot start. Get him up the leaderboard, then he plays 3 straight rounds on the South Course. So it's not as extreme as last week where we had 3 courses and then played the final round at the stadium. But this is just, you get 2 rounds, one at the North, one at the South. Anyone who makes the cut plays the next 2 rounds at the South Course. So Harris English is defending his title. He won last year at 8 under. Matthew Pavone won the year prior at 13. Max Homa was the year before that, also at 13. So I'm mainly going to look at the South Course. Like I said, it's a longer par 72, just over 7,700 yards. POA greens, a little bit smaller, so you're going to want guys who can put it close, make some greens in regulation. Also, looking at guys who are decent around the green. Matt Gannon, also host of the Golf Gambling Podcast, had a really good thread on what to look for Torrey Pines. I would highly suggest going over to X at Matt, I think _ Gannon. I'm sure you can find him, but had a really good thread, very informative on what he's looking for. A lot of people are talking about off the tee. It's 7,700 yards. You're going to want some distance. You're going to want some length off the tee. Matt kind of spun it as it's more of an approach first course, and I'm with him. I mean, you look at, like I said, Harris English won it last year and Matthew Pavone won it the year prior. It's not like either of them are bombers who are just going to bomb and gouge the place. I'm sure if you look at some historical data, there's driving distance is going to matter, but it's like approach is always king, and I think it's going to kind of stay that way here. Mentioning like Harris English won at 8 under last year, I'm going to be looking at guys who play well on difficult courses. I think that can go a long way. So even like taking a peek at the bogey avoidance isn't a bad thing, especially this week, because throughout the year, especially some of these smaller events or some of these weaker field events, like a lot of these courses are very easy. So we don't see many difficult courses. So when we get one like the Farmers, when we get to Torrey Pines, just one of the spots that you can throw bogey avoidance into. So let's get to the odds board. Starting off at the top, there are 2 guys under 20-1 consistently. That's Xander Schauffele. You can get a 15. Then Ludwig Aubert, you can get an 18-1. I like both of these guys. I think you can make the case for either of them. I think both numbers are fair. We don't have a Scotty. We don't have a Rory at this event, so we are getting a little bit of a discount here. If I had to pick between the 2 of them, I would probably go back to Ludwig. I don't love that he withdrew with a quote-unquote illness. I don't know what was going on last week, but there was like 4 or 5 guys who withdrew with an illness. Luke Clanton, I could be wrong there. I know Rico Hoy was one of those guys, but little odd. I don't love going back to Ludwig at 18-1. I like I said, I had bet him last week at 25. I thought it was a great number, so I wanted to jump on it, but probably prefer Ludwig to Xander slightly. Getting into the 20s, we got Cam Young at 22, Patrick Cantlay also at right around 22. We got Siwoo Kim at 28, JJ Spawn, Chris Gotterup, Hideki Matsuyama all at 30. My first click this weekend, or not this weekend, Monday, was Hideki Matsuyama. Long irons, he's been unbelievable around the greens. He hasn't been able to putt very well, which I'm not too concerned about, but he's played here extremely often. He's made a lot of cuts here. Not the elite high-end finishes that you would want from Decky, I guess, but like even at Sony, he finished T13, and it seems like we never heard a single thing about him. He gained across the board outside of on the greens. So if Hideki can find the putter, like I said, he's at 30-1. I caught a 33 with 6 places, the top 6 each way. Actually boosted it to a pretty favorable number. That was the only reason I kind of jumped on it pre-research. But Hideki Matsuyama might be the place that I start my card. We will see. Going down a little bit further, we have Jason Day, who had a great week last week at the American Express at 33. Maverick McNeely's also at 33. And then we have Taylor Pendrith, Keegan Bradley, Ryan Gerard, all right around 40. you can get a 43 on Ryan Gerard over on DraftKings. It's tempting, but like I said at the top of the show, it's so hard for me to get over the mental block of like, this guy finished second 3 times in a row. How long can you keep it up? Because we've seen in golf, obviously, over the years, it's hard for guys to continue this hot of a streak. Maybe Ryan Gerard's this good. Very possible. Me and Matt talked about him around this time last year that, hey, this guy's going to be a PGA Tour winner, and he went on to win in the 2025 season. So it's like, I don't think this shocks anyone that he's finishing up there. I just kind of like to fade someone when they are this scorching hot. So I'm probably going to stay away from Gerard. I'm a homer, but like, I like Maverick McNeely here. He doesn't rate out extremely well for me. The course history is blah. I mean, he's had a T24 at the Sony. Gained on approach was pretty solid across the board in that T24, but I do like McNeely. Not sure I will get there from an outright perspective. Going down the board a little bit more, shocker to absolutely nobody, I did bet Michael Thorbjornsen at, I want to get an accurate number for you guys. What did I get him at? 66 to 1. He's down to 50, but I saw a 66 right when the odds came out on Monday, and I jumped on it. So I still like Thorbjornsen at 50. I think that's a pretty good value. Wyndham Clark at 50 is also a pretty decent value there. I like both of those guys. I really think this place sets up extremely well for Thorbjornsen. So I will be all over him. He rates out extremely well for me. Missed the cut last year here. Missed the cut at Amex last week. I'm not too concerned with a missed cut the week prior with a guy like Michael Thorbjornsen. The 66, like I said, I'm thrilled with, but at the same time, I would still bet him at 50. Going down the board a little bit further, another guy who rates out pretty well for me, Rasmus Højgaard, 55 to 1. This is one I'm very torn on. Still waiting for one of the Højgaards to get their PGA Tour victory under their belt. It's going to come sooner rather than later. Could go through like the FOMO on picking the wrong one. Like if you're on Rasmus this week and Nikolai ends up winning, I mean, they are both in a very similar category. In my eyes, not just because of the last names, they are genuinely like almost the same exact golfer. I prefer Rasmus this week. He rates out a little bit better for me, just for what I'm personally looking for. But I don't know. Nikolai just seems like too up and down. I think Rasmus solidified himself as the better of the two. Obviously hasn't done a whole lot, was kind of underwhelming last year, but can get hot with the putter. We know Rasmus has his irons. I think he could be in store for a pretty good week. But yeah, if you're modeling basically anything, Nikolai's probably going to rate out extremely well for you. Just kind of have to make the decision there. I think Alex Noren is extremely interesting. He missed the cut last week. He's currently 13th in the official world golf ranking. We know what he did towards the end of the year. I mean, the second place finish at the Hero, went crazy on the DP World Tour towards the end of the year to get into the top 15 in the world. I think he peaked at 7 is in my brain, just like when he first came on tour in 2017, 16, whenever that was. So it's not like it's uncharted territory for Alex Noren, but gained across the board outside of around the green last week, just didn't make enough birdies. And when I'm looking at Alex Noren, he just seems like a guy who can play these difficult courses well. Just looking at some of his highest finishes, like 2018, he was T2 at the Farmers. here at 10 under, and he lost strokes on and around the green. There have been a couple other more difficult courses where he's contended at. I mean, I don't know, looking at, he had a solo third that same year at the Honda where it was 7 under. 2022 Houston, he finished in the top 5. That was 8 under, and that's like right around where this scoring's going to be. Like I said, Alex Noren has shown us a lot over the past few months over on the DP World Tour. So I think we're getting a pretty favorable number on him at, I didn't even say what it was, 65. Can get anywhere from 55 to 65. If you can get that 65, I think that's a pretty good value. Pearson Cootie's a guy who I always like, obviously, 66 to 1 with a top 6 each way's available. That one might move the needle for me. Two guys who I bet last week, who I am off this week, but I'm going to have crazy FOMO, is Davis Thompson, Akshay Bhatia. I expect very big things from both of them this year, but it's just like they both missed the cut at the American Express, so I bet their each ways, and they didn't even give me a sweat at all. I mean, neither one of them were really in it. I think Davis Thompson got off to a really bad start. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember looking and I was just like, it's just not working. I don't know what's going on. I guess I don't know if I even know when to play Davis Thompson anymore. Might just have to take a little break from him, and if he wins, more power to him. But at the same time, a lot of his higher end finishes were at Birdie Fest. Like when he won the John Deere in 2024, he got to 28 under. That same year, he had a couple second place finishes. Both were 17, 16 under at Rocket and Myrtle Beach. So it's like maybe Davis Thompson's a guy who is someone that's got to play in a Birdie Fest. I don't know, but it's like had a top 10 finish at the Players last year. He was top 10 at the U.S. Open in 2024. I mean, it's a hard guy to crack. I don't know how much more money I want to spend on Davis Thompson, so we are just going to skip by him. I just figured that I would talk about him as we were going through it. I like the way Aaron Rai rates out this week. Another guy who hasn't had the best form, I guess, this year, quote unquote, but T50 at the Sony didn't do a whole lot. A guy who I think strives or enjoys playing these more difficult courses. He finished T6 here in 2022. He's top 25 in the official world golf ranking. Listen, his approach has just been unbelievable. He got a win on the DP World Tour late last year. You can get an 86 to 1 on Aaron Rai. I will text Matt, but Aaron Rai is my top 40 bet of the week. So I'm going to go there. While we're talking about top 40s, let me pull up Matt's just because he did send me his. So we got Lee Hodges is Matt's top 40. So this week, the 1v1 is Lee Hodges versus Aaron Rai. That's our top 40 little one and done that we're doing this year. So, and going to Matt's card, he gave me a couple guys. So he did top 40 for Lee Hodges. He is also on Lee Hodges at 160 to 1. Towards the top of the board, and I didn't even really touch on him, but Cam Young is where Matt is going to start his card at 22 to 1. So Matt's starting at Cam Young at 22. I'm starting with Decky right around 30. So going down the board a little bit further, I mentioned Aaron Rai. Not a whole lot from the 80s to 100. Michael Brennan, God, he piqued my interest a little bit. I haven't dug into him too far. Obviously, what he's able to do off the tee is intriguing. he just hasn't really had anything except for his driver in the 2 events that he's played this year. He was cut at Sony, lost strokes across the board outside of off the tee. And then last week at the American Express, T56 finished, gained in a lot of spots, but lost 2.5 putting and almost a full stroke around the green, which is just not going to be doable this week. You're going to have your short game. 100 to 1's a very tempting number for Michael Brennan. I just don't know if I will be able to get there. Andrew Novak at 110 to 1, kind of where he sat last week. Me and Matt mentioned him. Matt is on Novak this week at that number. I don't know that I will be able to get there. I threw a couple bombs this week. I bet, where is he? Hank Lebioda at 500 to 1 with the top 6 each way. And I also, I didn't bet this outright, but because I don't know he can win. But I was texting Matt before the show. Chandler Blanchet, I was on at the Sony, didn't go well. He's 370 to 1. I can't get any placements there, so I don't think I'm going to do that. The place that I can get a top 6 each way, Blanchet's 250 to 1. Not going to do it. The thing that put me on to Blanchet, 2 of the 3 hardest courses on the Korn Ferry Tour last year, Tulum Championship at PGA Riviera Maya back in May. Blanchet finished T12. Last event of the year, the Korn Ferry Tour Championship was played at French Lick in Indiana. Blanchet won that one. That's one that I'm kind of looking at a little bit more. French Lick Resort is a par 72, almost 7,800 yards. It was the 3rd most difficult course. And like I said, Blanchet won that event. So the only really comp that I had was Chris Ventura. If you remember last year at the Farmers, finished T4. So that's Chris Ventura finished T4 at Torrey Pines last year. I looked at the 2024 French Lick, so the Korn Ferry Tour Championship. Ventura was T7. So I was something that I stumbled upon kind of late. Might be nothing, but you have to look for edges. There are 1,000 different ways to build out a card. Not saying Chandler Blanchet is going to win. I did bet his top 40 at plus 335. So I think that's live. I think you can kind of bet the ladder on him if you would like. 370 to 1 might be worth a buck or two if you want to just sprinkle it, just because I don't know. I think he eventually will find his form. I think he is one of the better Korn Ferry Tour grads and rookies on the PGA Tour this year. So Chandler Blanchet is someone who's worth a look. I also sprinkled Justin Hastings, a guy who popped a little bit last year. No reason. I just saw a 500 to 1 and bet his each way. There's a 650 out there, so I guess I probably should have done something with that. But Justin Hastings was T2 at the Bahamas last week. Yes. Last week, Justin Hastings was T2. Like I said, he showed a little bit of life last year. Nothing crazy, but a couple top 30 finishes. So he might be worth a guy for a top 40. Justin Hastings was T26 at the Procore, T22 at Butterfield, Bermuda. So something worth noting there. I did bet that. So back to placements. Like I said, top 40s for me are Chandler Blanchet, Aaron Rye. Aaron Rye will be my one and done. Matt's one and done is Lee Hodges. T20 two other placements. Matt has Rico Hoy and Michael Brennan as his top 20s. And then outrights, I will do my three first and then just recap who Matt had. But I'm going to go Hideki Matsuyama at 33. I guess I'll call it a 30. Michael Thorbjornsen at 50, even though I got him at 66. And then my last one is going to be, I'm going to get a little bit different. Let's go Gary Woodland at 175. So those are my three outrights for the Farmers Insurance Open. Matt is going with Cam Young at 22-ish. Lee Hodges at 160 and Andrew Novak at 110. So that will do it. Solo show, about just under 30 minutes. Not too bad for the first solo show. Also, don't forget to check out Underdog. You can do some drafts over there for each event. Underdog is your home for the pick'em entries where you can win up to 5,000x. Underdog is bringing playoff magic all playoffs long, every playoff weekend. Open the Underdog app, see what the promos are that are waiting for you. They have a brand new offer for customers. If you play $5, you get $75 in bonus funds when you sign up with the promo code SGPN. So if you haven't signed up with that SGPN code over on Underdog, the drafts are pretty fun to do for the weekly contests, just like your DFS contest, but over on Underdog and a little more interesting. So good luck to everybody this week at the Farmers Insurance Open. Make sure to follow along, reach out if you have any questions. As always, good luck, and we